Straight ahead on Fox 44 News at 6, more on the latest dispute over jurisdiction at the border after 3 migrants drowned trying to cross the Rio Grande. And Israeli officials say they faced the largest barrage of rocket attacks in the last week. We have the latest on the war.
Covering Temple, McGregor, and all of Central Texas, this is Fox 44 News at 6.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on Fox 44 News at 6. I'm Raul Stoudemire filling in for Adam and MG. Well, the Department of Justice sent a memo to the U.S. Supreme Court late last night in response to Texas closing off access to a park in Eagle Pass along the border. The state did this because 3 migrants drowned Friday trying to cross the Rio Grande near the park. The Biden administration says they could have been saved if Border Patrol had access to the area, but the state says that's not true. Monica Madden has more on this new dispute over jurisdiction at the border.
Tensions escalating at the border after Texas blocked access to Shelby Park along the Rio Grande. Later Friday, 3 migrants, 2 of them children, drowned near the park.
Should have never kicked out the very agency that has the power under federal law to arrest illegals, number one, and provide humanitarian care.
Congressman Henry Cuellar believes federal agents could have saved the migrants if they were at Shelby Park.
Border Patrol would have seen people on the Mexican side, would have sent people in the river.
But the president of the National Border Patrol Council disagrees.
Even if we would have been notified in a timely manner and were able to get personnel and get those boats down there, it would have taken an exponential amount of time. Whereas we know that drownings happen in a matter of minutes.
Saying Texas's presence opens up Border Patrol's resources.
We consider it a force multiplier, so it is a good thing for border security.
In a Monday letter to the U.S. Supreme Court, the Department of Justice said, quote, Texas has continued to impede Border Patrol's ability to access the border, pointing to this tragedy as the latest example.
These are all just flashpoints for the broader attempt by Governor Abbott to basically claim the mantle of immigration enforcement.
Constitutional law experts say the precedent is clear.
As long as the federal government is, within the bounds of its authority, the federal government wins. And that's a lesson that was learned over and over again in the school desegregation cases in the 1950s and 1960s.
And it's all teeing up a larger fight in the courts.
One way or the other, the Supreme Court is going to have to step in one of these disputes between Texas and the federal government.
Well, kids are back in school, offices are open, and it does feel a little bit better outside today. With this being said, we have our chief meteorologist, Mike LaPointe. How much longer do we have? How much closer are we to the warm weather?
Well, tomorrow will be above freezing, Earl. That's always nice to see. We're seeing some sunshine out there. Hopefully that helped lift your spirits a little bit. Still very cold, though. You can see in our live Centex Seamless Gutter Sky Trackers here, we're sitting in the 20s at this hour, officially at the regional airport here in Waco. Our current temperature is at 25 degrees, 27 right now down in College Station. Another cold night expected, high pressure in control. This high, though, is close enough that our wind is not going to be a problem. So the actual air temperature is going to be about what our wind chill is, which is some good news because our temperature is going to drop down into the teens and it's going to be rather cold. 12 tomorrow morning, but it should feel like about 12 because of the lighter wind. 14 in Hillsboro, 15 in Killeen, about the same down in the Brazos Valley. Enough to our west, Brownwood, about 10, 15 tomorrow morning in Comanche. A slow warm up on the way, and then we cool it down again as we approach the weekend. We'll talk about that and look at our rain chances. Yeah, rain in the forecast. All that in just a few more minutes. Earl, back to you.
Thanks, Mike. Well, due to the extreme weather we've been experiencing, hundreds of Southwest and United flights have been grounded. More than 5,000 flights have been delayed across the nation today, and according to flight tracker FlightAware, another 2,000 flights have been canceled. Southwest and United have been hit hard with nearly a quarter of all of their flights delayed. Snow, ice, and freezing temperatures rolling across the Northeast, Midwest, and even parts of Texas are to blame for the trouble traveling. Well, switching gears, there's more back and forth attacks between Yemeni rebels and the U.S. military. The U.S. is on high alert throughout the Middle East following the first direct attack on a U.S.-flagged commercial ship by Iranian-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. It happened Monday when rebels fired an anti-ship missile at the Gibraltar Eagle in the Red Sea. It was a direct hit, but the ship isn't reporting any major damage or injuries. The rebels say because of the U.S. support for Israel, international shipping is now fair game.
The response to the American and British offenses is certainly coming, and any new aggression won't pass without a response and punishment.
The Pentagon does have options prepared if America wants to strike back, but some of America's top allies in the Middle East are pushing a diplomatic solution. They claim more airstrikes will only intensify the conflict, and it's already costing us a lot of money. Shipping rates from Asia have jumped about 60% since the attack started, and that number could jump even higher if American ships get damaged or destroyed. All this comes as Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin leaves the hospital after a 2-week stay to recuperate at home, releasing a statement saying he thanks the medical staff that treated him and he looks forward to getting back to work. As the war in Gaza grinds on, Israel is focusing on its own security. Fox's Alex Hogan has more from Tel Aviv.
As the war in Gaza grinds on, southern Israel is reeling from the biggest barrage of Hamas rockets in more than a week. Dozens of rockets fired at towns near the border despite more than 3 months of an Israeli offensive aimed at destroying those capabilities. Residents say they're shaken but staying strong.
It's not an easy situation, but there's no despair. We hope this situation will eventually end, that there will be quiet and no wars. But we are facing an enemy that is not easy.
The attack came as Israeli troops in northern Gaza located more than 100 rockets, killing dozens of militants during the raid. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now working with civilian officials to repair the damage and prevent further attacks.
We are determined to rehabilitate the communities, to return the residents to their homes, and to bring about prosperity much more than what existed even before the war.
Meanwhile, diplomats are still scrambling to stop the war from expanding, but it doesn't appear to be working. Iran's Revolutionary Guard striking what it claimed was an Israeli spy headquarters near a U.S. consulate in northern Iraq. At least 4 civilians were killed in the attack. Iraqi officials are calling the claims baseless, and they're vowing to respond.
The stance must be clear and unified towards these actions that affect Iraqi citizens, and the Iraqi government will take some measures.
Israel's defense minister says the intensive maneuvering stage in northern Gaza is over, despite heavy fighting still being reported there. In Tel Aviv, Israel, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Coming up, electric vehicles may be the future, but many are having trouble dealing with the cold temperatures.
Weather-wise, another cold night expected tomorrow morning, and we start to warm it up as we approach the end of the week, and then we'll see some rain by next week. Of the 10-day forecast coming up next.
This is Fox 44 News at 6 with Adam Hooper, MG Montemayor, AMS certified chief meteorologist Mike LaPointe, and sports with Eric Kelly.